Asgard V Apokolips Part 2. Make sure to check Part 1 for the rules and stuff, and without further ado, let's begin. Main thing here is comparing Darkseid's main power source, that being the Omega effect, going against the Odin force, which is kind of like passed down from Allfather to Allfather. Let's start with the Omega effect first. Darkseid's Omega effect manifests itself in two ways, those being the Omega Sanction, which is a prison he can control, and the Omega Beams. The Omega Beams are his most utilized ability, manifesting as essentially aimbot things that come from either his eyes or his hands, that are able to essentially aimbot track you, and, well, if you get hit by these things, you are most likely deceased. However, there are numerous entities above X certain scale of power, such as Shazam, Superman, Doomsday, I would arguably say Black Adam. I would even say Thor and Odin themselves are able to tank shots from these. So it's not an instantaneous one-hit kill, albeit it does still really mess them up from getting hit by it. Another key thing, the Omega Beams are wildly inconsistent throughout their run, as Batman, a regular human, was able to trick them by hopping onto another parademon and leaping off. Further, their inefficacy to kill Damian Wayne, as mentioned previously, and also Flash was able to outrun them. Superman, Shazam, Doomsday, all of them were able to tank hits from it. Even Supergirl in the film Superman Batman Apocalypse was able to flip him over and take the brunt of the force himself. Quite innovative from Kara Zor-El. I feel like that's an important distinction to have here, is that the Omega Beams are not necessarily an always instant I win button, and they are what I consider to be a very high-risk, high-reward thing, depending on who Darkseid is going against. If he's going against just a regular human or somebody like Will Ospreay, Batman, or like Ryu or Ken, yeah, they're getting washed immediately. Whereas if you're going against a being of a higher level of power, Hyperion, Superman, Odin, Thor, who else? Null, guys like them, yeah, it's going to take a lot more than just that to put them down. Getting to the Odin Force, and I think you kind of know where I'm going with this. The Odin Force essentially just, well, empowers the Allfather and, well, gives him numerous stat buffs. The only real time he's actually vulnerable is when he enters the Odin Sleep, which, aside from that being an extremely specific win condition for killing the Allfather, as he is completely vulnerable, the Odin Force also manifests itself through his spear known as Gungnir, which, similar to the Omega Beams, cannot miss. Emphasis on cannot miss, however, as truly, this thing does not miss whoever it's hitting. Like, if he is aiming this at you, you are screwed. Pretty bad. And then there's the win-loss disparity between the two. Darkseid has been beaten numerous times, countless times by the Justice League, Superman, Wonder Woman herself, his own son Orion in Final Crisis. You can check that out. Who else? Highfather in the Gods and Monsters film was able to kill him. Kara Zor-El was able to wound him using his own Omega Beams. Damian Wayne, a regular human, was able to wound him, which that's got to be the biggest black mark he has. Further, Batman was able to out-trick him numerous times. Some continuities, he was straight up overthrown by Apocalypse. In others, Doomsday nearly beats him to death with a few punches, and etc., etc. A little key thing here that I know people are going to, be yapping in the comments for if I don't bring this up. The good amount of this comes, and a good amount of lack of feats and stuff for Darkseid and the New Gods come from a weird 20 to 23 year period after the Crisis on Infinite Earth storyline, where the New Gods were treated in some issues as necessary aspects of creation and existence, able to culminate as other higher celestial forces and influence the cosmic hierarchy. Whereas in others, they were just seen as really tough, powerful aliens with really advanced technology. That's pretty much it. So that's why Darkseid is wildly inconsistent throughout comics. Just FYI. Odin, that being the Allfather, however, cannot say the same. As, once again, the only time he's ever really been challenged on this point is facing Seth, a fellow Skyfather, apologies, and once again going against all of the Celestials with all the other Skyfathers backing him up, which, once again, going against the Celestials, there really should be no shame in losing that, if I'm being honest. Even in other mediums, like certain shows and stuff, what if we don't actually see Odin get killed? Granted, he did get sent back by the goddess of life, Hela. Granted, that was with a crap ton of help and an entire army backing her up, along with Wenwu and the power of the Ten Rings. And even then, Odin was still dominating the vast majority of that fight like it was nothing. Not to mention, Odin has numerous other weapons that give Asgard a massive leg up during this all-out war, including, but not limited to, a sword that can destroy the universe just by being unsheathed. No, not even swung. Unsheathed. Pulled out of its scabbard. Could destroy the universe. Yeah. Do I need to explain on this point more, or can we move on to the next one? Further, comparing everything, all that stuff. Comparing everything, other feats, stuff like that, I give the win to Asgard by a considerable margin. Once again, the main thing that drags the new gods down is, one, not using their avatar / true form cop-out bullcrap. Second is, once again, that weird 20-23 year period where they fluctuate in power massively, whereas Odin and Asgard's power has always remained relatively consistent. Even present day in comics, nobody really wants any smoke with Asgard, whereas present day in comics, Apocalypse really isn't mentioned outside of like Darkseid War. And once again, if you want to like bring New 52 or like Rebirth into this and get into Darkseid War, once again, Anti-Matter was dominating for the majority of the fight until Darkseid called in the Black Racer. So, yeah. If you want to say Black Racer could do something like that, or like is kind of Darkseid's X Factor with this, I'll play devil's advocate. Okay. Black Racer is essentially the embodiment of death for the new gods and speedsters, stuff like that. He has been outrun numerous times and can moreover be controlled by things such as the anti-life equation or the life equation, stuff like that. Yeah, he really doesn't have that good feats, so. If you want to give Darkseid the anti-life equation to try and like balance it out, once again, depends on what version you're using. Comics, I don't really know the full extent of the anti-life equation, as once again it kind of fluctuates depending on which one. Like Final Crisis, when Darkseid got the full anti-life equation, he waged war against New Genesis. And even then, it came down to literally him, his son Orion, and another version of himself fighting, who was a sniper who ended up shooting Orion dead with a radion bullet. Aside from that, yeah, anti-life equation really wasn't utilized that good until Darkseid actually manifested on Earth during, the multiverse's collapse. But no. Even then, I feel like the Odin Force has certain safeguards to prevent Odin being mind-controlled, stuff like that, so, yeah. And once again, even if you guys want to, like, bring in true forms and stuff, Rune King Thor by himself would be able to take even the strongest form of Darkseid, even this King Omega, Spectre merged, whatever, quasi-pseudo-philosophical bullcrap extended Omega form bullcrap Darkseid. Due to the fact Rune King Thor is able to kill numerous Beyonders. The Beyonders by themselves, even a younger one that we see in the original Secret Wars event, was said to be a child by comparison. Said child was able to terrify an aspect of the living tribunal, whom, despite being infinite, endless, and essentially the second in command for Marvel's vast multiverse, his full consciousness and full form, like his true form, I would put on the same level as Michael Demiurgos or Lucifer Morningstar from DC Comics, with One Above All and Presence being, once again, roughly equivalent in power. So, there you go. Yeah, Darkseid would still, he would still bite it pretty bad. But yeah, that's a little two-parter on Apocalypse versus Asgard. Stripping away their true god forms, what have you, avatars, all that other unnecessary fluff, and just looking at the raw numbers and the raw facts. Apocalypse would try war of attrition strategy and would get hopelessly decimated by Asgard's superior force, logistics, and power. There you go. The Allfather takes it over the God of Evil once again. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Leave a few comments down below of what you want me to speak on or what you think would be interesting. And have a good day. Stay cool.